Hi, my name's Michelle, and I have volunteered myself to make a video of how to do this specialty stitch on Hunter Hammersen's sock from her Silk Road Socks book called Usak. You can see here my sock that I finished maybe about a year ago, and this is the stitch that is variously called the wrap stitch. I call it the harvest sheath stitch. I think in some of her patterns Hunter refers to it as a sleigh stitch because of the way it looks on the chart. But apparently folks kind of seem to have a little difficulty comprehending what to do with it. So a video tutorial seemed to be in order. To make the tutorial a little easier to see and to make it a little faster for me to demonstrate, I'm going to work this with some worsted weight yarn, and you can see I've done a row of 4 of those here. I'm working in 2 contrasting colors so you can sort of see what's going on at each step, and I'm going to work from right to left like you would work in the round, except I've already done my 3 rows of purl, so I'm ready to just start the specialty stitch right here. And but it works the same way whether you're working in the round, whether you're working with fingering weight, whatever your needle size is, the technique is the same. I'm just hoping this is going to be a little easier to see. So in the chart you knit 1 stitch, and the first thing it shows you to do is to wrap the next 5 stitches 3 times, and it's shown with a little circle and a 3 in the center. And that's very simple. All you do is put the needle through like you're knitting normally, and then wrap it 3 times instead of 1, and pull all 3 of those wraps through onto your other needle. And you might have to kind of loosen things up a little bit. I'm a fairly tight knitter, so I sometimes kind of have to make some slight adjustments. So you're going to do that in groups of 5. So here's the 3rd one, wrapped 3 times and pull it through. And I knit continental, but the technique is the same whether you knit English or continental. If you throw your pick, it's the same difference. Here's 4. And here's number 5. And then in between each of these clusters of 5, there's a single knit stitch. So I'm going to go ahead and knit the next stitch. And then I'm going to continue with the next cluster of 5, which I'm just wrapping each stitch 3 times and putting all 3 stitches on the needle. So here's 2. Here's 3, wrapped 3 times. Here's 4. Here's 5. All those are wrapped 3 times. And if you need to, sometimes, you know, interruptions happen. I have a daughter. We all have pets, husbands, people who don't pay attention. You can kind of pull these apart and sort of see where you are if you've lost count or whatever. It's not too hard to kind of keep track. So I'll go ahead and finish the next 2 up. Here's wrapped 1, wrapped 2, yeah, wrapped 3, 4, 5, and just because I've got this set up to do 1 more, because we may need it for demonstration later, I'll do the last one. Here's knit 1. Whoa, wait a minute. Got carried away with the wrapping thing. Knit 1. Now we'll do 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, so now where I had 1 loop for each stitch, as you normally do when you knit, I now have 3 loops for the stitches that have the circle with the 3 in the center. It's a lot of stitches, and as you can see as I went along, because A, I'm a tight knitter, and B, you've got just a lot of different things going on with your tension there, the stitches get a little hard to move down your needle. It doesn't help. Today's a kind of humid day at my house, and I can kind of feel my needles aren't quite as smooth, and this yarn is an acrylic that I'm not real thrilled with, but it was pretty, and I had it on hand. Okay, so the next step then, you would do this all the way around on your circular needles. So then the next step is to take and make a second pass across all these. And I'm going to do that with some contrasting white so you can sort of see a little better what it is that happens here. So again, you're going to knit the first stitch as the pattern calls for. And then when you come to those stitches that have the triple wraps, you're just going to slip all the wraps off onto your right needle. So I'm going to do that 1, there's the second one, 2, there's the third one, 3, 4, 5. And this, I know, looks like a mess. And of course it looks like an even bigger mess because I'm working with worsted weight instead of the nice little thin fingering weight we're all used to. But it's okay. So then you're going to bring your yarn to the front and you're going to slip those 5 really long stitches to your left needle. Okay, so now I've got them all over here and my yarn's coming around the front, and I've done this a few times now, so I hook it and bring it to the back. I wrapped it once. The book instructions say to wrap that twice, so I'm going to do the same thing, slip them back and forth and just wrap my working yarn around those. And you can kind of see now it sort of looks like a wheat sheaf, or just a wrapped cluster of stitches. You're going to do nothing at this point. You're going to knit the next stitch and leave those 5 on there. But where you once had 15 stitches, we're back to 5 again. So this is where you're going to kind of come back to your normal number of stitches. So I'm going to slip the next, and I'm slipping these purlwise. I don't know, they always say to slip stitches purlwise if you're slipping stitches, unless the directions tell you otherwise. It seems to work either way here because you're going to be slipping them back and forth and they're going to be clustered. So, and make sure you get all the loops. Don't leave one or get behind or weave them together here while you do this. Bring it back, bring it to the front, and once you get them wrapped once, they kind of tend to bunch together and it makes them a lot easier to manage. So there's the second cluster. I'm going to knit this one stitch in the middle, and this stitch that you knit in the middle is not a normal knit stitch in the sense that it looks funky, and that's because your tension's off. You've got all these long loopy stitches here, and so the tension for that stitch is going to look a little strange, but that's okay because the final result is going to look nice no matter what happens right there at that moment in time. So we're going to go around, and for size 7 DPNs, these are really pointy, so that for some reason they're grabbing my yarn tonight. Around and around, and I'm going to knit this one. And I've got one more cluster of 5, so I'm going to slip 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And yeah, they're super long, but like I said, it's all going to work out in the end. That length is going to come in handy when you work the next step because you're going to knit each one of those lengthy stitches on the next pass through. And at this point, before you go on to knit them, if you're knitting in the round, when you get your row done where you've done all this, it doesn't hurt to come back around and kind of take a little look at them. You can sometimes, like right here, I might move that stitch so that they lay parallel. Some of that's going to work out with the tension when you knit them the next time around. Okay, so now I'm going to take my blue yarn, which is my contrast again, and because it's handy and I can cut it off and use it. On the final round, you're going to come through and you're going to knit these. You're going to knit every stitch, including each of the top of those long loops. And again, tension's going to look a little funny at first. Yeah, if I can even get this started. There we go. Let me give that working yarn a little tug. There we go. And I'm just going to knit the top of each of these long loops. So here's each one. So again, now we're back to what looks like normal again. You've got 5 stitches where you had 5 stitches, but in between there you've got these really long stitches, and then knit the stitch in between. And again, right now your tension's going to feel a little odd, and the temptation is to go in right now as you knit each one and like fuss with it and play with it, and don't do that. Because what I found is after you get them all done, and I'll show you here in just a minute, you can come back through and just kind of give the whole row just a gentle tug, and everything kind of just miraculously falls into place. And we're going to knit the top of each one. You do want to try to keep them in order. I mean, and I say try because once you've wrapped them, occasionally they want to slip over each other. I didn't have a whole lot of trouble with that. Other people say that that's kind of a complaint. So if you find that they're wanting to slip across each other, you might want to kind of take a good look at them as you work them. I tend to have no trouble with them slipping around on top of each other, and I can just pretty much knit each one as it comes up. But, you know, if you find that they're wanting to kind of crawl across each other, do kind of take a look at that and maybe straighten them out as you go. But that hasn't been a problem for me. And I've done this stitch multiple times on different projects as well. So I've used it again in other places, like on some mitts and other things. So there it is. And then the next row would be the 3 rows of purl. And as you can see down here below, that also hides a multitude of wonky sins. Because, I don't know if you've noticed, your purl rows kind of overlap your knit row. And in this case, it really does kind of hide some of the funny things that go on at the top here. But that's essentially the technique for working the top of the cuff for the Usak socks. And again, here's what it looks like when it's finished. Now this would have been, since they're cuffed down, I would have started with this row here and worked this way. So your edge, when it's finished, is slightly scalloped because these stitches pull differently, but it makes kind of this nice little wavy edge, and then it all evens out before you get to the next specialty stitch, which is the wrap stitch on the body of the sock. That's fairly straightforward. It's a slip over kind of stitch, and I was only interested in demonstrating this top part here. So hopefully this will be helpful for someone. Enjoy, and if you want to find me on Ravelry, my name is Mingo08. Thanks!